See the cars starting to roll off as they work down the back straightaway, and a couple of them taking those final moments to prepare before getting started for this last race of the 2023 season. 16 races in, and it's hard to believe that back in March, Erica, I mean, again, that was 8 months ago. That feels like it was almost yesterday. We were opening up this season at Southern National Motorsports Park. So much optimism about this season. It has lived up to the billing, and yet we get to enjoy the best late model stock car drivers in the country giving us a show for one final time this year. I can't wait.
Yeah, really hard to believe. I mean, we talked about this off air, but for me personally, right around the time of the season opener at Southern National, my wife and I were expecting our first child, and it seems like that time has gone by so quickly. It seems like the season has gone by so quickly. And Blake, we've talked about the championship points battle and the way in which Brendan Butterbean Queen has been able to execute to leave us with the level of drama that we're anticipating throughout this race. But it wasn't all smooth sailing so far this weekend for them.
No, it wasn't. And being here yesterday and having practice and qualifying a day ahead of time kind of made this play out a little bit differently. But in the midst of practice yesterday, Butterbean pulled down low on the racetrack. There's smoke coming out of the race car. They pull it down into the trailer, and they find that they threw out a rear axle in the midst of practice. And whether that car was going to be able to make it out just to qualify was in question for this team, whether they were going to have to replace the entire rear end of this race car. And there were several teams that stepped up that were going to help this 03 car, including his championship competitor in Carson Quapple. If that doesn't tell you the camaraderie that is down here in the garage area here in the Cars Tour, I don't know what can. Two championship competitors helping somebody else out that may need it. I mean, that says it all right there.
And I think that's also a statement as to what we are going to see today. Should the 03 and the 8 end up in and around each other at some point in this race, nobody wants to win the title by virtue of somebody else having some bad luck or things getting a little bit out of hand. This is going to be settled fair and square between now and the next 125 laps. And that sign of sportsmanship of the Junior Motorsports operation, that was just the first page in how the story of this finale is going to be written. And I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. You see the 25-car field. And how about that? We're at that time of the year where across short track racing, there may be questions as to who's able to continue on, what people's agendas may be. There's some off-season late model stock events outside of the Cars Tour slate that some drivers and teams may be preparing for. We have seen drivers and teams come out in droves in these final few races of the season, and Caraway is no exception. It's been a phenomenal year. Great car counts across the board, and we've got 25 of them that are going to vie for the last checkered flag and trophy that is on the line for 2023.
And looking at this grid, Eric, one of the things that we have loved about the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour this season is the level of competition amongst all of these competitors. I know we're talking a lot right now about Butterbean. Yes, he has a shot at the championship. He's sitting on the pole. He's our defending race winner. How about Landon Huffman, who's sitting on the outside of the front row, who tied his time in qualifying? Not only did that play out significantly for the points, if he runs 1/1000th of a second quicker, that's 3 points that is out the window for Brendan Butterbean Queen in terms of winning the pole and the bonus points that he would have accrued. So that had a pretty big impact on this championship fight. But Huffman has a very fast race car. Bobby McCarty, 1/1000th of a second off the pole sitter as well, starting in third. Zach Miracle in fourth, 4/1000ths. 4/1000ths amongst your top four. That is insane. That is the level of competition that we have come to almost expect in the Cars Tour now.
I'll steal a line from you that you said mid-season when we had one of our thrilling finishes. I think it was Hickory. How could you not love the Cars Tour? And that's just qualifying. We still got 125 laps to settle out the season. So much to look forward to. This is going to be an incredible afternoon. And I think everybody is already focused forward on 2024. We're excited to see how the news is going to trickle out as to how that season is going to shape out as far as schedule, drivers that are going to commit to the full season, and so much more. But first, we have one last step in order to complete what has been a memorable 2023 for the late model stock cars. With that, let's not wait any longer. Let's go down trackside to James Pike, who is standing by with our honorary starters to get the command.
We have before us the owner and founder of Solid Rock Carriers, Mr. Kirk Ipock, and his lovely life win. Before we get going, we have a special presentation on behalf of Jack McNelly, Keely Dubinsky, and everyone at the Cars Tour. We got a little present here, a banner with signatures and messages from friends and family across the series who wanted to thank you all for your support of the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour here in 2022 and 2023. So that will be going home with you all. But for now, we've got a race to start. So, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome founder and owner of Solid Rock Carriers, Kirk Ipock, and his wife, Lynn.
Drivers, start your engines.
What a spectacular sound that we have been blessed to hear 15 times already, and for the 16th time this year, we are getting ready to wrap up what has been a spectacular 2023 season here in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour. Queen, Huffman, McCarty, Miracle. How about Minnie Tyrell? He's starting in 5th. He could go to victory lane as well. How about Dylan Ward, Trevor Ward, who's had a tremendous fall, wrapped up a win in the Rodney Cook Classic this past weekend at Ace Speedway. He's starting in 7th. Tremendous talent we've had in this field. Great competition all year long. And on top of the championship battle. I don't know what more you could want if you're a race fan.
We're going to keep our eyes on the NPM Marketing Rookie of the Year battle, which sees Cameron Boland and Dylan Wilson battling out. But here are the point standings coming into qualifying to start the weekend. Again, that margin has shifted a little bit due to the pole and bonus points that were paid out to Brendan Butterbean Queen. Mason Diaz, he told Matthew Dillner and Rob Blount he's not sure what he's doing in 2024 just yet. So he's trying to race potentially for an opportunity next year. Ryan Millington, Bobby McCarty, only one win on the season with the RNS race car pairing. That was much publicized this season, and many other drivers trying to cap off their season on a high, including that of the driver who's 10th in points, Landon Huffman, his last race under the Cars Tour banner with the Nelson Motorsports team before he moves on to Jimmy Mooring Racing next season to team up with Jared Fryer, who, oh, by the way, has won the last 2 races here at Caraway and is also in this stacked field this afternoon.
If you think NASCAR silly season is pretty crazy, get ready for late model silly season. It is something that is going to be very interesting to see over the course of this offseason, how it plays out, the attention that's been brought to this series, and the level of competition that wants to get involved in trying to chase a Cars Tour championship this season.
Field now continuing on their parade and pace laps, and for the final time this season, it'll be a chance for these drivers to vie for a checkered flag and a trophy. For a pre-race report, let's head down to James Pike.
Guys, had the opportunity to speak with both Brendan Queen and Carson Quapple earlier this morning about what their mentalities would be entering this race. For Butterbean, he said it was very simple. We're treating this like it's a cutoff race, and we have to win to make it into the next round. That's the only way we think we're going to have a shot at it. For Carson, it's a little bit different. He said, we're going to try and work our way up to the field and get to the front as best as we can, but if we don't have the car to win the race, we're not going to try to overextend ourselves to make it happen. If we have a 5th place car, we're going to work to get 5th, knowing that as it stands, the top 16 is good enough to win the title.
And that is the point that I was going to bring up that James Pike just said, that if you are the type of person that likes to do the numbers and likes to do the math, of which myself is included, it is 16th with all the bonus points that are accrued. We saw the margin at the top of the show was 19 points. That sits at 18 when you consider the bonus points that Brendan Butterbean Queen gets for winning the pole position. He gets 1 additional point after the season is over for locking up and winning the most points or poles, as well as Carson Quapple, who gets 2 bonus points for the most wins of any driver. He's already locked that up, even if Queen wins today. So think of it as an 18-point separation, and with that, it would be a 16th place finish that would put these two in a tie. The tiebreaker would be most first-place finishes, which would go to Carson Quapple. So 16th, if you're a Junior Motorsports fan, that's where you're looking for that number 8 car to try to run. And for one final time here in 2023, we'll let the pace car dive off. They will work their way into the KRC Power Steering start zone. Queen will get us going for the final race of 2023, and we are racing here at Caraway. Opening lap going to go to Butterbean. He'll secure an extra point for leading the most laps as Huffman files into second. McCarty gets down to the bottom in third. We talked about Mini Tyrell starting up in the top 5. He's already worked his way to the 4th position as Miracle may have tagged the wall off of turn 2 in a side-by-side battle with Dylan Ward.
It's in a bit of a Ward sandwich is that of Zach Miracle in a return start for the Cars Tour in the 32 car. Just got overtaken for position by Dylan Ward. Martinsville winner Trevor Ward in the 77 behind him. And then we've got double wide battling all throughout the bottom portion of the top 10. That's Chad McCumbee and the Aaron Sales number 16 inside of Brandon Pierce in the Lee Pulliam Performance number 2.
And Pierce trying to hang on. We talked about the season that he has had. A lot of bad luck, unfortunately, has befallen the driver out of Oak Ridge, North Carolina. You could see a little bit of a late move there from Jacob Hefner. Puts Pierce on notice to try and hang on the top side and is just not going to be able to quite get clear and down to the bottom. Meanwhile, further back in the field, you could see that number 8 car of Carson Quapple almost tagging the wall. Was just about to mention that he has stayed put in the 14th position. A side-by-side battle with Ronnie Bassett Jr. will move Quapple back into, or indeed he will stay in that 14th position for now. And also you can look further on back the road. How about Connor Hall? Was a championship contender early on in the season, elected to pursue the national championship, the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series. He was able to win it, but he's certainly somebody that could go to victory lane here today.
We saw a lot of fast cars not qualify all that well as Quapple makes the high side work on Ronnie Bassett off at turn number 2. You mentioned, of course, Carson Quapple, Connor Hall. How about Ryan Millington, top 5 in points? He qualified all the way back at about the 18th spot. And qualifying and race results here at Caraway. Ooh, got a car way sideways off the corner. That was Andrew Brady who keeps it straight. The correlation between starting position and going to victory lane here, well, the jury's still out on that one. This is the 5th late model stock race here at Caraway under the Cars Tour banner, and half of the races have been won from inside the top 10, never by the pole, while the other half have been won from the outside of the top 10 twice. The worst that a winner of this race has ever started, or at Caraway has ever started, 16th. Twice. If it's going to happen a third time, it'll be Coy Beard who rolled off in that 16th spot, and he's spinning in 3 and 4. Coy Beard, just as we were talking about him, and he gets tagged by the 59 of Heath Causey.
And a couple of local heroes here at Caraway Speedway, and the field kind of trying to decide, okay, do we want to go low, do we want to go high to avoid Heath Causey's car that's sitting in the middle of the racetrack, and Coy Beard, you can see in that 75 car, track champion here at Caraway Speedway before, and Heath Causey, somebody who has won many a times at this racetrack. Both racetracks that are around this area competes at Ace Speedway as well. Two of our local heroes involved in an incident early on here at Caraway, just 9 laps into the going here. You can see the damage on the right front fender of the number 59 car.
Just we were talking about Coy Beard and company perhaps playing the numerology in their favor, being that half of the races that have been run here with the Cars Tour have been won from the 16th starting position. That's where the 75B rolled off from. We look out of the window here, we saw that car spinning around in turn number 3, and unfortunately for Heath Causey, who rolled off in the 24th position, had nowhere to go by the time that he arrived on the scene, and he has badly wrinkled up the right front fender of that number 59 Toyota.
This was battling for about 20th or 21st or so. We talked about Caden Honeycutt and how he had to start from the tail end of the field after winning his pro late model race. He had just moved past, I believe, this battle that was taking place amongst these two competitors. And both teams very quickly attending to their race cars. Cars Tour officials on the scene as well, as we have an early volt battery caution to get things kicked off here at Caraway. No change up front. It's Butterbean who has led every lap thus far. And again, for that team, as far as a trifecta of winning the pole, leading the most laps, and winning the race would try to net him 37 points, of which he's going to need every single one to try and chase down that driver in Carson Quapple, who's managed to pick up a pair of spots since we dropped the green flag.
And while we were talking about the fact you could start well out of the top 10 and win this race, all the while sidebar here, got distracted out the window. Caden Honeycutt, the pro late model winner, is on the pit lane under this caution flag. We'll try to get an update there as soon as we can. But even though it has been proven you can start out of the top 10 and win this race and run well, Carson's back there in a bit of a hornet's nest. There's a lot of ill-handling race cars. And let's keep in mind, Blake, you alluded earlier, there were days of practice leading up to this event. The weather has been crazy. It's been really, really chilly in the early morning hours and afternoon hours. In fact, a couple of days ago on Thursday, it was cool during the middle of the day as well. Yesterday was a little more similar to what we have here in terms of weather conditions, but it's not too far-fetched to think that some of the race teams may have taken a swing at what they think the setup is going to be to balance the track conditions, being that this racetrack, all 4/10 of a mile of it, should be baking in the sun, just like whatever's on that grill out there with that race
I was about to say, it's grilling weather now, so it's nice right now.
It should be hot and slick pretty much all
and by
day
the
long,
way,
so
that
we'll
may
see.
be hanging around a little bit after this race, so I may stop by if they're still parked out there.
I will follow you like a pair of ants marching to a picnic, because it is going to be hangout time once this race is wrapped up here. Our final race of the 2023 season.
And haven't we had that at so many of the venues we've visited? Not only have we had great crowds show up on hand, but so much of the trackside parking here at Caraway Speedway that is on the back straightaway. We saw it when we were last back here for that midweek event in the summer, and yet the fans have come out in droves, tailgating, and golly, they get to see a lot of racing here tonight, but a great crowd here at Caraway Speedway this afternoon.
Turn 1 grandstand, you see there, is packed as the field hits the shoes this time by. We mentioned Caden Honeycutt was on the pit lane. He is back out on the racetrack, second to last car right now as they run, as the field is doubled up, and it looks very similar to what we saw at the start, with Huffman choosing the outside of Butterbean with the restart upcoming. They're going to go around at least once more.
Yeah, I was just about to say that if they were going to turn them loose, there are going to be a couple cars that were going to be a bit tardy to the party there for the restart, and we will turn the lights on and shut them off this next time around. Opening couple of laps, though. Liked what I saw out of each of our top 3 cars. Of course, Butterbean drove away. He had the preferred position. But Huffman and McCarty looked like they had very strong cars. And McCarty is somebody that when he's really showcased early in races, when that car is strong, he's right at the front, up at the front like he was at Dominion. You mentioned this great pairing with RNS race cars and how this team and this driver were really becoming comfortable with each other over time. Who knows, maybe another victory to add to the tab here in 2023 is on the docket for Bobby McCarty and RNS race cars. Through the KRC Power Steering restart zone, Butterbean will launch us once again, and this time the outside of 1 and 2. Huffman's going to be able to just hang on the right rear quarter panel, but Queen, momentum off the corner, he's going to be able to take the lead, and McCarty will check up and let Huffman down in the bottom lane.
Huffman slots down to that runner-up position. McCarty third, side-by-side.
Oh, one car has heavy damage after a stack-up. It's Mason Diaz on the front straightaway. The hood is bent in on that car as there was a stack-up up at the front. And, yep, you can see the damage for Diaz. Nobody goes around. Nobody spins. But everybody, Honeycutt and Lady Bice included. Yeah, once again, fighting for that bottom. And Diaz, you can see the nose is crinkled on that number 24 Chad Bryant Racing Ford.
Unfortunately for Diaz, if this race stays green, next competition caution will be at lap 48 by the time in which we saw the first Volt Battery yellow. As the field continues on, and he is hoping that that hood is going to be able to make it until the next yellow flag, but he has fallen to about the last car on the lead lap. Right now, Coy Beard and Heath Causey going by while the battle for the lead is on in turn 3.
Landon Huffman off of turn 4, applying that pressure to Butterbean. Will continue to monitor Mason Diaz as he has fallen almost all the way back to the tail end of the field. Don't forget about Bobby McCarty either, keeping pace there with Landon Huffman these times. And again, we've talked about it all year long here, Eric. So close amongst your top 3. That time by, just a couple of thousandths of a second separating each of your top 3 competitors.
McCarty third, Minnie Tyrell up to 4th. Trying to have a pretty strong effort so far here this afternoon at Caraway. Left side of your picture, watch for the 24 car behind Ronnie Bassett Jr. as everybody accordions back together. Jared Fryer got hit by Brandon Pierce, Jacob Hefner, Ronnie Bassett, and unfortunately Nathan Diaz was pretty much the last car in line to get the memo that they were blowing up, and he still got big damage on his Chad Bryant Racing 24, but he remains on the racetrack and on the lead lap.
And how hard to anticipate that. I was counting the cars there. Okay, where was he? He was the 6th. He was the 7th car in that stack up. That was a huge one, and we even have somebody else who kind of had the same situation happen to him, running just in front of Carson Quapple. Zach Miracle has heavy damage on the nose of his race car too, but Quapple, unfortunately, he can't get around him right now. He's trying to get around that 32 that has very similar damage, but unfortunately, he has spent about 3 or 4 laps trying to do it and can't manage to get past that 32 car right now.
And according to our numerology right now, as they run, with Carson being 11th, Butterbean has about a 5-point advantage should things end as they are now. 5-point deficit should things end as they are now, with Quapple just trying to safely get by the stricken 32 of Zach Miracle. And you're right, Blake, that damage looks almost identical as to what Mason Diaz is having to deal with. And boy, it's got to be hard to be able to see out the windshield of that car with the hood bowed up like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking from Mason Diaz. And you could both cars now, extensive damage. Diaz's situation has gotten much worse. The hood's popped up, and I think, at a certain point, you have to wonder the sight line of those cars. Are they really going to be able to see at a point? And we'll see if the black flag will be displayed for either one of them.
Diaz did get the black flag last time through, and he's getting it again as now the left front fender has started to separate. Not the same for Miracle, who protects the bottom on the points leader in Carson Quapple. This is the battle for the final spot in the top 10.
We talked about in the Pro Late Model race how difficult it can be to try to make those moves, and Quapple clearly has a fast race car, but you have to manage this. Oh, and he gets loose as he slides in. How do you manage this, Eric? You're fighting for a championship. You got a car in front of you that you think you're a little bit faster than, but even right now, you're in a position to take home that championship, and this is a different position than Carson Quapple's been in. He's usually battling up front. 5th, 6th is about as far back as we see that number 8 car, but he's outside and almost into the outside wall.
Connor Hall, the 2023 NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series champion, to the inside. Brandon Pierce to the inside. Ryan Millington trying to fill the void as well. And that 8 car does not appear to be in the racetrack. It looks as though it is very on top of the surface, especially coming up off the corner. That car is a handful for that of Carson Quapple. He loses the spot there to Connor Hall. That's for 11th. And here comes more cars lining up on the bottom.
And these are great cars that are on his inside. Brandon Pierce for Lee Pulliam Performance hasn't had the season he wanted, but is a very strong race team and driver in his own right. How about Ryan Millington sitting in the top 5 in points right now, so no refuge for Quapple for now. And again, that was the problem. You kind of mentioned it looked a little bit on top of the racetrack rather than in the racetrack. That was certainly kind of what befell him in qualifying yesterday. Just got really loose through 3 and 4. And just able to get down in front of Ryan Millington. An aggressive move, but finally able to take some solace in the bottom lane. However, he has fallen back to 13th after all of that.
While that was going on, Mason Diaz did have to answer the black flag. He is on the pit lane receiving repairs to his number 24 car, but he is falling multiple laps down right now as they continue to work on that car in the pit lane. Well, we've been watching Carson Quapple kind of fade a little bit back towards where he started. Look at that 10 car, Caden Honeycutt. He was on the pit lane not that long ago. He's 3 spots behind Quapple right now as they run, trying to sweep the afternoon. He's up to 16th.
Same song, different dance, right, for Caden Honeycutt, starting at the back of the field once again, and really took advantage. The reason he would have come down that early on, it was clearly just to make some adjustments, right? You're already at the tail end of the field, and again, he didn't have practice today. He didn't have practice yesterday because he wasn't on the property. He wasn't like so many of these drivers where we had more practice for this race than we've had for any race all season long. So trying to get that car dialed into his liking, and at least so far early on, he's passed a couple of really strong competitors, Ronnie Bassett Jr., Laney Bice, a couple more. So just trying to get that car tuned in, and at least at the moment, looks like he can go up and challenge a couple of those guys that are ahead of him as the battle for second starting to intensify. Landon Huffman, Bobby McCarty still setting a decent pace right now behind your race leader in Queen.
Huffman now falling back into the clutches of that number 6 car of McCarty. Hard to believe McCarty went this entire season without capturing a Hedgecock Racing Pole Award. He does have that victory in what was a thriller at Dominion Raceway. Led only 2 laps en route to that victory, but McCarty, who sits in the top 6 for all-time pole awards, was shut out in that column for this season. But he and Marcus Richmond and this entire group continue to strengthen their collaboration as he tries to get up to and around the car he used to drive, and in fact was able to wheel to 3 Car Store late model stock titles Currently, the steering wheel held by Landon Huffman in second spot, with the leader about 2 car lengths further ahead of him.
And some change coming in that number 22 as well after the season. Landon Huffman will be moving on from Nelson Motorsports, and as you mentioned at the top of the show, will be driving for Jimmy Mooring and running out of his own family-owned race shop with his father, Robert Huffman, as the crew chief of that number 22 car. But we've talked about it time and time again on this show, right? The amount of times that we have seen that 22 car run very well with Landon Huffman behind the wheel. Have to imagine that more of the same is around, but I think for Huffman, you got to be proud of the way that this race team has turned around at this later juncture of the season, and could very well go to victory lane at a track here, Eric, that I would say translates very well from where he won earlier this year at Tri-County.
Also, tip of the cap to both Landon and the Nelson Motorsports team as Logan Clark yields the front runners off at turn number 2. That announcement was made with a handful of races still to go on the season, and yet it seems as though it incentivized this driver and team to keep performing at the level that they had set right around when they won the Old North State Nationals at Tri-County in August. So just really focused forward effort by both Landon and this organization to be able to continue to rack off the results that they have, and it appears they're going to close out their season quite strong should he remain up in podium contention, while Zach Miracle continues to have his hands full.
Well, you can see Miracle kind of making a defensive move right there, kind of moving down, slowly drifting down the back straightaway. You can see him doing it right there. He's still trying to hold the bottom. There's only one car that's been able to get by him in this long line of race cars, and that's the 77 of Connor Hall, who's been able to pull away by a couple of car lengths. So Miracle, we saw the damage, clearly not slowing him down all that much, but yet is still having to play a little bit of defense here on Brandon Pierce, Quapple, and Millington, who's been hounding the back end of that number 8 car for the last several laps.
We're about 10 laps away from what would be our first competition caution of the race. After we had the first incident in 3 and 4 on lap 8, we'll go 40 green flag laps, so it'll take us to lap 48, about 10 laps from now, before this field could potentially be slowed unless we have another incident take place. I'll also tip our cap to Derek Bernasiglio, who's up here in the booth. He's getting set to call the modified portion of the North-South shootout here in just a little while, and he said forward bite is the thing that drivers are always chasing here at Caraway, no matter the vehicle. And Blake, there are some very ill-handling race cars out there right now. A lot of them, especially if they're towards the bottom portion of the field, they may be looking forward to an opportunity to make some adjustments when that caution flies.
They are, and just the gap that has built in this field behind Connor Hall. Connor Hall runs 10th. He's about 6 seconds behind the leader. Then you have Jared Fryer, who's just up the road, which, by the way, let's give our due to Jared Fryer, looking for his 3rd consecutive Cards Tour victory here at this racetrack, and is kind of running on his own island right now. He's about 4.5 seconds behind Chase Burrow, who runs in 8th. And he's about 2 seconds ahead of Connor Hall, who runs in front of this long line of race cars.
Here's Millington looking to the inside of Carson Quapple. That was close as they went down to turn number 1. That is still for about the 13th position. So Carson is still in the safe space as far as the math is concerned. But boy, is he finding himself in uncharted territory, especially with the way in which that car is sliding up off the corner.
And again, this would be his worst result. If he were to finish in 13th, still would be good enough to take home the championship. But this was also a car, too, Eric, that came out to Ace Speedway, the Rodney Cook Classic last weekend, DNF'd with a mechanical issue. So Carson Quapple right now trying to gather back some momentum to be able to hang on to the incredible start that this team right out of the gate for the 2023 season. Rattled off 3 wins in a row at one point. And that is what has propelled them to be in this position right now.
Proving in that non-car sanctioned event that that car, that team, that driver, not necessarily invincible despite the run that they have been on. And he continues to find himself mired in this knot of cars that is led up by that of Connor Hall, rounding out the last spot in the top 10 as things run with the yellow on the horizon.
Well, again, a couple of laps away from the caution, and something that came up, it was the first race at Southern National Motorsports Park where drivers were kind of positioning themselves knowing that the competition caution was coming to be on the inside lane at that racetrack. No longer a factor here this stage, and it has really kind of shaken up things throughout this season. It's been the first full year of the Choose Cone here in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour, and I think for the drivers, teams, fans, everybody's been a huge fan of that, so you're not seeing all these kind of games being played to line up in the preferred lane. as we come down to these last few laps for the Comp Yellow.
Unfortunately for Mason Diaz, is the 5th car in your picture there, 3rd in championship points. Remember, had a pit for damage. We got a car off the pace on the main straightaway. That's Ryan Millington with his hand out the window. Something amiss on that car as the volt battery caution flies right at lap number 48. And depending on what the problem is with that 15, this could be a huge break for that of Millington, who, as you can see, fell all the way back to just about the front bumper of the race leader in Brendan Queen. Second volt battery caution of the afternoon. First one as part of the competition yellow due to 40 consecutive green flag laps. It's been all Brendan Butterbean Queen trying to do everything he can to stay alive in the title fight, while his closest combatant and current points leader, Carson Quapple, continues to run in the 13th position.
Again, and especially at a racetrack here that, we go to many racetracks that have exceptionally abrasive surfaces. You think about a New River All-American Speedway or Florence that we've visited so far this season, a Hickory Motor Speedway where tire wear and conserving is definitely a part of your game plan. This kind of reminds me a little more of a track like what we've been to recently at a Tri-County and Ace Speedway or so, where it's not necessarily the tires, but more so the equipment, more so the brakes. Again, James did a good job there in the Pro Late Model race of kind of catching up and chronicling Caden Quapple that was the concern, or at least the message to that team was, hey, make sure you're conserving your brakes, and that could be something that these drivers are thinking of now. For more, let's head down to pit road and James Pike.
Yeah, Blake, it's not much for Carson Quapple at this stage. He's just been patiently working his way in the back of the field. Crew's been feeding him lap times. He finally got the chance to speak to them under the yellow, though, and they asked him how the car felt. He said, I'm just cracking the throttle, trying to make sure the rear end doesn't snap on me, just trying to make sure I don't kill the car. So certainly nursing the handling on the number 8 machine, but so far, still so good for the number 8 team.
So far, so good. It's good enough, but yeah, that driver definitely, I think, fighting a little bit of what they had yesterday, being a little free. And again, especially here at Caraway, carries so much speed into the corner. You're always fighting that forward bite, but in turn, this is a really tough racetrack. You get a loose condition on entry. It's tough to feather out, and it affects the rest of your corner, and it is for Carson Quapple right now.
I got to say, Caden Quapple, who granted just wrapped up, in fact, they just pushed that car back to the hauler from Tech after celebrating the Pro Late Model Championship. I have to imagine that Caden has a headset on and is listening to this, and of course he wants Carson to wrap up this title, right? But in terms of the Corvette, the King Corvette Parts.net Challenge, Caden's got the edge right now by virtue of that runner-up finish earlier. I bet he wants Carson to stay exactly where he is to walk away with some of that $17,000+ prize pool, including the winner getting about $10,000. That would be quite the edge going into the holiday season in the Quapple household if Caden could pad his wallet a little bit there. Let's go down trackside to James Pike, who's got an update from pit lane.
I'm down here in the Zach Miracle pit where they've taken some bare bond and they're trying to get the nose sorted on the number 32 machine. Lots of tape going on the hood just to get that thing put down. Important to make sure that you can see out of the front windshield. Meanwhile, rear jacks are going up, so they're taking a look at the rear end as well. It's something that we've seen at Caraway in the last few races. Here's some stack-ups on restarts and some noses bent in and some rear ends caved in. So 32 crew from Miracle Motorsports just trying to make sure that everything is knocked back out into shape before they go back green.
It's a good point there, and again, we saw it multiple times over the course of just that run or over a handful of laps or so with Zach Miracle getting some damage, Mason Diaz as well. He has come back out of the racetrack, albeit a couple of laps down. More cars that are down in the pit lane. Logan Clark has pulled his car in for some adjustments. Andrew Grady right now sitting on the pit lane as well. So is Dylan Wilson in the 4, Cameron Bolin in the 67. Also recently, this past lap, Ronnie Bassett Jr. Has brought his car down to the attention of his crew. Ryan Millington also a part of that trio as well. It's kind of sitting in the middle of pit lane right now, as well as Coy Beard. So a busy pit lane early on here at the first competition caution. 77 laps to go in the season, and these crews are just as hard at work as they were back in March at Southern National.
Big deal for Ryan Millington. We saw that car slow on the front stretch. Tense moment for all drivers and spotters as they came down past us with his hand waving frantically out the window that he had a problem. We mentioned Millington came into this race fourth in the points, so Bobby McCarty was only about 11 markers behind. So that's a position up in the top 5 in the standings that can swing, especially with McCarty running in the top 3 right now, and Millington just pulling off the pit lane, restarting at the tail end of the field.
Couple of cars will make their way off of the pit lane. Dylan Wilson, Cameron Boland, 2 of our NPM Marketing Rookie of the Year competitors, coming down for some adjustments there. Only 3 drivers right now that are behind the race leaders. 22 cars still on the lead lap. It's Coy Beard, Logan Clark, and Mason Diaz, the few who were put a lap down in the midst of that run. These cars coming back out. It's just Zach Miracle right now who's sitting down in the pits, and I believe this time by we will see the results of the choose cone come into fruition here. Imagine Queen will choose the bottom. I think the decision is here for Huffman. Do you choose the bottom behind Queen, or do you take the top side? And Huffman's going to elect to take the top side.
Pretty much everybody there seemed to be picking the bottom. The Brave Soul is going to move up to the outside of row number 2. Is that of Dylan Ward on the 7, looking for his best effort on the 2023 season on the Cars Tour side, in what is only about his 5th start of 2023. Quick note from James Pike. We talked about Ryan Millington trying to protect 4th in the championship standings. Right front brake line was the issue on that 15 car. I guess we'll see if they got it repaired, because he has lined back up out there on the racetrack and is set to restart at the back of the pack.
I think a couple of local fans like the way that high line looks right now, with Dylan Ward and Trevor Ward both second and third on the outside lane. Through the KRC Power Steering restart zone, and there's a stack up behind Minnie Tyrell, who was the 3rd car on the inside line, did not get up through the gears. Somehow the field is able to make it out, as now McCumbee into the back of Tyrell off the corner. Minnie Tyrell has got a problem. The rest of the field scatters. Somehow they make it without any further incident, and one of the biggest beneficiaries of that, Eric, is Carson Quapple, who was on the outside. He's now up into about the 8th position.
Contrary to what happened to him last time
Chase
out
Burrow,
of Tri-County.
trouble, turn 2.
Burrow comes to a stop. Millington was off the pace for the 2nd time. And a much-needed caution for, I think, everybody to catch their breath. Conveniently, Burrow gets back going. But boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what, Blake, we think back to the restart stack-up we had at Tri-County where the race stayed green. Quapple was in the wrong lane then. Maybe he was paying some of that luck forward for here, because he was on the top side when the 81 did not go, and that could have been very bad for his championship efforts as the yellow flag flies, with both Millington and Chase Burrow making it back to the pit lane, as did the 81 of Minnie Tyrell, who has pulled into the hauler. It appears as though his race is over.
And again, Tyrell was running so well at the front of the field, and I think you mentioned that stack-up that we saw at Tri-County. Very easy, especially when everything's going on and somebody has an issue at the front, how much worse it can be. But hats off to these drivers, these teams, these spotters who've saved a lot of money in sheet metal and torn-up race cars here. With so much going on in late model stock car racing here these next couple of weeks, Eric, you think about the big events that are coming up, the Fall Brawl, the South Carolina 400, Thanksgiving Classic at the end of the month. Certainly something you don't want to be dealing with a torn-up race car, and you can see Minnie Tyrell already out of his car. Laney Bice, that's parked just in front of him, had a flat right front tire. They're replacing the right front on the AK Performance machine.
Minnie Tyrell, who we've touched on this story several times, especially if you were with us at Dominion. He is one of, if not the most philanthropic driver that we have in the field. He has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for kids in need throughout his charitable efforts. But boy, on the racetrack, it has been a rough year, and this appears to be how it is going to end for the 3rd white car on the inside. The number 81 of Tyrell just doesn't get up through the gears, and the car never regains pace. At this point, Chad McCumbee knows that he's got to go, and the 81 just can't seem to pick up any more juice off the exit of the corner.
And we're just talking about those stack-ups right there. As McCumbee gets going, Brandon Pierce gets into the back of him. But a tough issue there for Minnie Tyrell. Looks like his day and his season is going to come to an early end. But we saw there on the replay as well, kind of the beneficiary of that was Carson Quapple, who through no fault of his own was able to work his way up into the top 10. The outside lane ended up being kind of where you wanted to be through that whole situation.
Yeah, and like we said, if you think back to how the last couple of races has gone for Carson Quapple in that 8 car, you know, he was in the opposite position at Tri-County, so perhaps the luck swinging back a little bit more in his favor here, and this is going to help him gain a really good bit of spots and maybe get him out of some of that madness he's been trapped in the first 49 laps of this race.
Again, another report from down in the pit area with Ryan Millington. After the brake line issue, they also had a flat right front tire that they have just come down and replaced on that number 15 car. So Millington, he and his team working hard to keep him out on the racetrack right now as he paces around, and what more we could be in store for. I mean, heck, we're not even close to halfway yet here, Eric. A lot has happened.
The Pro late model race was kind of calm, cool, collected. Now here we are at the late model stocks, and it's been a little bit wild. However, Butterbean is led all the way. He picks the bottom lane yet again. In fact, this shoes is going to look very similar to the last one, exception being Trevor Ward has picked the outside. He'll line up behind that of Landon Huffman. And the 2023 Valley Star Credit Union 300 winner from Martinsville, who, Blake, he has been very adamant about the fact the next item on his bucket list is a Cars Tour sanctioned victory, and Caraway is a place that he and that family know very, very well. Trevor now will line up on the outside of row 2, behind what's been pretty much the top 3 all day long in Butterbean, Huffman, and McCarty.
And has all the momentum in the world right now. I mean, you mentioned the Valley Star Credit Union 300. He caps that off by winning the Virginia Late Model Stock Car Triple Crown, and perhaps one of the more meaningful races that he's won in his young racing life, with so much that he, his father, Dean, everybody in that family have poured into Ace Speedway, going out last week and winning the Rodney Cook Classic. He said in Victory Lane that this win means more to me than Martinsville did. So for him to be able to cap that off with a Cars Tour victory this year, it would be perhaps a perfect season for Trevor Ward to wrap things up here in 2023. Probably going to contend for a couple of those races we were talking about earlier, too. Through the KRC Power Steering restart zone, you can see Huffman ahead by just a nose as Queen will get the launch and have the lead down in turn number 1. Seems the proceedings are going more according to plan as they work off of turn number 2. Queen still your race leader, and now McCarty pulling up alongside Huffman and looking for the second spot. He's going to be able to get it.
Off the corner they come. Here comes Trevor Ward down to the bottom, and the caution flag is out as we got a car stopped. Cameron Bolin in turn number 2. Bolin trying to wrap up the 2023 MPM Marketing Rookie of the Year honors here at Caraway. And if you're with us at Tri-County, the small family-run race team, which does have help from Josh Williams, NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Josh Williams and Josh Williams Motorsports, but still a family-owned operation. Was involved in a very hard crash. They got the car back together, but he has put us under the yellow here. And we'll take this opportunity to check in with James Pike, who's down trackside.
Down here with Minnie Tyrell. Minnie, what happened to put you out of this so early?
We'd come on the restart there, and I hit 4th, and I thought I missed a shift because as soon as I hit 4th, the car just redlined and wasn't going anywhere. But I made sure it was in 4th, but the left rear axle broke and just kind of got carried and tried to make it through 1 and 2, and hopefully I didn't mess up anybody, but I couldn't go anywhere. And it's really unfortunate. I mean, it sucks. I thought we had a pretty good car. Running in the top 5 all weekend, so really, really proud of these guys, man. You know, we've had a lot of struggles this year and a lot of problems, but, you know, these guys show up every weekend with me and put their heart, blood, sweat, and tears into this car. And, you know, it sucks. I wish I could have given them a good finish, but, you know, I'm just thankful to be here and thankful, you know, for everybody that is able to bring me to this racetrack to do it. So, again, it is what it is. We had a great season, and I just can't thank all these guys enough, and we'll come back and be better for 2024.
It's a broken rear axle that ends Minnie Tyrell's season early.
Thank you, James. Meanwhile, you can see on the outside of turn 2, the crew went over and was communicating with Cameron Bolin exactly how they want to get that car in a position. And, yep, they're going to give him that 67 car a push at the top end of turn 2.
We talked about Cameron Boland's season. It's been filled with a lot of highs and a handful of lows as well, on and off the racetrack. We mentioned this is a family-owned operation. A lot of the team members are, in fact, family. And with that in mind, they dealt with the loss of a grandparent over in the summer months. He paid tribute to his late grandfather with a legend car victory at Summer Shootout. And then another key member of his team, another grandparent amongst the group, had some health concerns and had to step away from the race team for several races. Came back, all is well and healthy. And then the on-track portion has been a little bit of feast or famine. A pair of top 10s in his rookie campaign in these style cars. And then also, as we mentioned, having to rebound and thrash to get this car ready, to the point where the amount of time they had between Tri-County and now didn't seem like it was going to be enough. Now, an unfortunate mechanical problem has forced him back to the pit area, but he has pretty much sewn up Rookie of the Year honors in 2023. Has that of the Sharon, South Carolina native in Cameron Boland. We'll see if he can get back out in time for this upcoming restart.
Again, good to see those type of race teams out here for the Cars Tour as well, and even coming back to a place where he ran so strong. He finished 8th here. His what is up to now his Cars Tour best run. We ran here just a couple of months ago, but we'll see if they can get that 67 car back out and onto the racetrack for now. So 76 laps to go here, the 2023 season. It has been a special one, and so far, Eric, we talked about this championship battle coming in. I know things are starting to shape up a little differently with Quapple moving further up the field, but if you're Butterbean and this LPP team, so far, perfect weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been pretty remarkable to see what they've been able to put down and what they've been able to do. But, you know, it's funny because we do mention this a lot throughout the season in terms of what each driver is trying to accomplish. One of them, arguing for some real estate right now, is that number 10 car of Caden Honeycutt, who, as we mentioned, is trying to sweep the afternoon. But in terms of agendas, going to victory lane's all they care about, while the 8 cars have been able to perfect the art of their agenda, which is clinch this championship. It should be noted, though, that 10th car of Caden Honeycutt, that is an RNS race car fielded entry. We've seen him run with Mike Dorn Racing several times this season with strong results. However, the pivot has been made with RNS race cars. That's the same group that Logan Clark as well as Bobby McCarty hold the steering wheel for. So Caden electing on a late model stock side to maybe try something a little bit different, maybe get ahead of planning for 2024. And with all that in mind, he is already driven from the back of the field up into the top 10 prior to the choose. So Honeycutt may not be done charging just yet.
And again, somebody that we've seen be so competitive in the past. Of course, won at Ace Speedway last year, the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour, and has multiple victories over the course of his Cars Tour career. And, you know, I think with what he's shown today, the fact he got some additional laps, I don't know how well that straight rail chassis car in the Pro Late Model is going to translate here to a late model stock, but you know, you make up for not having practice and being gone in Arizona a little bit with getting out here, at least today, being able to feel out this racetrack, certainly putting it to good use. And like you said, a great pairing when you put Caden Honeycutt in a fast car like an RNS race car, he's going to be able to try to do something with it.
You talk about how important it is to be a versatile racer in this day and age, and how important it is to be able to drive and wheel several different vehicles in several different disciplines. And that is something that Caden has been able to prove just over the last 24 hours that he's been able to do that. And he's trying to look for more success here on a late model stock side. The field continues under this caution with 76 laps to go. After we had a bit of an incident over in turn number 2, Cameron Boland has gotten the car repaired and back out on the racetrack. And once the order is finalized, the field will come to the choose and we'll get set for the upcoming restart.
Yeah, and I think that's been kind of the what they're looking at right now. You can kind of see some cars going back and forth in terms of having this order correct for the choose. The Ward cars were kind of a ways back from the rest of the field and have kind of worked their way up to the middle portion. As they come back around this time, you can see no direction being given as far as going low or going high. So still a little bit of discussion over where these cars should sit. At least an update you can see at the very tail end of your screen. That red car of Cameron Boland is back out onto the racetrack. The only car that is sitting down in the pit lane now that I believe will rejoin the field by the time we get that choose is the 32 of Zach Miracle, which is kind of being benefited right now by some of the disagreements that we're seeing, giving he and his team some extra time here. Of course, caution laps not counting against the total. So you can sit down there as long as you want, make those repairs, and they're going to take full advantage of it, at least for the moment.
And really nice to see Zach Miracle back in Cars Tour competition. It's been a while. This is his 7th start of the season. He did run the throwback event at Hickory, picked up 9 spots there after starting outside the top 20 to finish in the 13th position. A driver who cut his teeth in Bando's Legend Cars and eventually up to late models. Multi-time winner at Florence Motor Speedway, so we could expect to see him at the South Carolina 400. And his father, Jerry, nicknamed Doc, former racer, and also ran Cars Tour late model stock races himself, including at Concord back in 2016. The irony there, this event, the North-South Shootout, that was the initial home for the event there in terms of the modified portion of the racing program that's happening here this afternoon at Caraway. And for Zach, after that stellar qualifying effort, so far, due to the damage sustained, not able to, at least at this point, be able to look to be in position to capitalize on a strong race result, but there's still a long way to go as the field took the choose last time by, and they're coming to the one to go.
Well, and a little bit of a difference at the front of the field. You see Queen on the inside, but also Landon Huffman has been choosing the outside lane for each of the prior restarts, and he's not going to do that this time. He elects to go second car on the inside, and it will be Bobby McCarty who will try to at least jump up one position, perhaps get in down behind that 0-3 car once we get going again. You can see Dylan Ward just on the outside of row number 2. Trevor and Connor, a couple of 77s, will make up row number 3. And Carson Quapple already up to the 4th car on the inside line as he continues his march up through the field. The USAR Pro Cup throwback pace car, which I'm so glad we have kept that all season long, works its way through the KRC Power Steering restart zone. Queen, good launch on the outside for him as well as Bobby McCarty. Huffman, though, going to be down to the inside. They'll be side-by-side down the back straightaway, and Dylan Ward very quickly also able to find a way down behind Landon Huffman.
Perhaps the decision for that of Landon Huffman was a bit of a defense move to stop Bobby McCarty from the opportunity to take over the second spot as he still has a fender inside in 1 and 2. McCarty inches further forward and clears Huffman for second spot off of turn number 2.
He's able to accomplish that feat, and I got to tell you what, one car that looks so strong nearly got into the back of Dylan Ward with the run that he had off of turn number 2 was that of the 77 of Connor Hall. What a great drive he had through 1 and 2, and he's going to be able to do the same thing again and almost clear Carson Quapple off the second quarter, and indeed he's able to do that.
If you look at the drivers in which Carson Quapple in the 8 car is surrounded with, he is amongst drivers who only care about going to victory lane here today. Caden Honeycutt, Connor Hall, Honeycutt in the 10, Hall in the white 77, and on the outside of Honeycutt is the 14 of Jared Fryer. That is a battle for a top 10 position. Everybody trying to get to the front for their last chance of a win this season.
And don't count out just behind them. How about Jared Fryer? Every time we come to Caraway, you cannot talk. And again, somewhat overlooked with all the championship battles going on and how strong we've seen both of our competitors here this afternoon. You cannot write out Jared Fryer and what he's been able to accomplish here at Caraway. Very fast race car and a very fast race team as he's back once again on a part-time basis here in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour. I want to give a nod to Chad McCumbee as well, who is just sitting behind him. And despite some bad luck that he's had over the course of the 2023 season, that team and that car is together. They're a contender, that's for sure. Meanwhile, back up front off of turn number 2, we are nearly in a battle for the race lead between Brendan Butterbean Queen and Bobby McCarty. Meanwhile, also the Ward brothers are side by side just behind him.
Trevor Ward on the inside of the 77, Dylan Ward on the outside. Here's that battle for the race lead. Brendan Butterbean Queen, all of the math, all of the numbers we have thrown at you today about how Butterbean could win this championship is contingent on a victory. He has to retain the number 1 spot to stay in title contention, and he also needs Carson Quapple to fade just a little bit. But McCarty is applying heavy pressure on the backstretch.
Great battle going on here. We also saw the Ward boys get into each other. A little bit of contact off of turn 2. Should make for an interesting Thanksgiving between some family members there. But yes, McCarty, just these last couple of laps, you can see him hounding almost some contact as Butterbean slips in the center of 1 and 2. McCarty, I think, being the experienced veteran that he is, I think he knows the situation here. He wants to get by Butterbean. He's a race car driver. He wants to win. But I think knowing what's at stake for Butterbean, I wouldn't expect anything dirty here from Bobby McCarty.
We mentioned this earlier on in the broadcast, but the story coming into 2023 was the departure of Bobby McCarty from the Nelson Motorsports team. Ironically, the car that chases him on the racetrack right now, today driven by that of Landon Huffman. McCarty went over to the RNS race car stable, and it did take them a little bit to be in race-winning contention as they began to combine their knowledge to form the best form of racing chemistry you could find. With that, if luck had been on their side on the nights in which they have not had mechanical problems, McCarty has found himself here towards the front of the pack in contention for a victory, and he's trying to close out the season with win number 2 if he can get up to and around Brendan Butterbean Queen with still a good bit of racing left to go.
And some important laps here for Brendan Butterbean Queen up at the front of the field. Not only can he lead the iRacing halfway race break and collect the $500, but he would lock up leading the most laps, which would add an additional point to his total here today. You can see Honeycutt has been able to get by Carson Quappo a little further back in the field. And Honeycutt has made easy work pulling up to another very fast race car, especially down in turns 1 and 2. That 77 is hooked up at that end, but Honeycutt may just be a tick faster. You see him running just a little bit lower in the corner right now.
Here comes Caden Honeycutt to the inside of Connor Hall. This a battle inside the top 10 for 6th. Honeycutt hook in the bottom. Carson Quapple behind the Best Pro Shops number 8, waiting in the wings to see which lane's going to go. Oh, Connor Hall is doing everything he can to make the outside lane work for him, and he fends off the challenge for now.
And that's been his mantra all race, is being able to work that middle line in 1 and 2, and just that 77 car is hooked up in a way that he can just carry so much momentum off the corner at that end of the racetrack. And if Honeycutt can just stay alongside, I think in 3 and 4 you give the nod to that number 10 Toyota. The fact that he's a little bit better at this end of the racetrack, and Honeycutt able to take that spot, and now Hall will get side by side with Carson Quapple.
It seems as though if you get kicked to the top side, like what happened here to Connor Hall, oh, there's contact with the points leader. And that's going to cost Hall not only that spot to Carson Quapple, but maybe more. Jared Fryer through to the inside. That's going to gain him a position. Connor Hall was going to fall potentially out of the top 10 should Chad McCumbee be able to make this pass. And a great rebound for Heath Causey in the 59 after sustaining major front end damage in a lap 8 crash in 3 and 4 with Coy Beard.
I was just about to say, looking at that 12 car, I was thinking, is that Brandon Pierce? No, that's Heath Causey right there in the number 59 car. And like you mentioned it, what an incredible rebound. You can still see trying to fight with some of the damage that he has, but again, one of the local heroes here at Caraway Speedway, trying to make his way further up the running order and running down some very fast race cars that are just up the road in the 16 of Chad McCumbee and the 77 of Connor Hall. Meanwhile, still up front, it is still Queen out to about 0.6 of a second over McCarty as he's been able to stretch that lead back out. Landon Huffman has now done a tremendous job at chasing down your top 3 and just a little bit quicker, at least the last lap times that we can get, than your race leader in Queen, who also has a little bit of lap traffic up the road in his not too distant future.
Connor Hall appears to continue to be struggling in that white. Chad Bryant Racing number 77. McCumbee in the 16 just behind. Causey in the 59. First car out of the top 10. Ronnie Bassett Jr., who's had a lot of ebb and flow in terms of how the trajectory of his season has unfolded, with a handful of podium place finishes and also a good bit of bad luck as well. He continues to hold down that position for the time being. Now also under fire from Laney Bice, who is doing quite well in 13th spot for AK Performance.
And again, that was a car that was on pit lane very early, making some adjustments, trying to make that car a little bit better. And like you mentioned, Bice and that team done a great job and trying to improve her position right now as we kind of separated into a couple of packs here at this racetrack. And one of them is right in front of your race leader in Butterbean.
Yeah, right now your leader is encountering some pretty heavy lap traffic, as you see there on the left side of your picture. There's the battle for second as Zach Miracle gets out of Dodge on the front stretch. And this is still your leader, Brendan Butterbean Queen in the 03, putting Ryan Millington a lap down after having the brake line issue, the flat tire. Millington just trying to see this race to its conclusion. And Butterbean will now go around the outside of Logan Clark to put him 1 lap off the leaders, 50 laps away from the finish of the 2023 season.
thought we saw Miracle was a little bit off the pace, but continuing to work around the racetrack right now at full song, at least for the time being. But Queen, you can see, kind of got a little bit of help there through some of the lap traffic, getting by Millington. Also Logan Clark, he was able to get by. Still going to be a little bit of work for his RNS race car teammate behind him, and McCarty, as well as Landon Huffman. Meanwhile, just up the road, you could see Queen's teammate and Pierce right now in a side-by-side battle with Mason Diaz, who was a couple of laps still off of your race leaders, but nevertheless battling side-by-side with Brandon Pierce, who's trying to stay on the lead lap.
We are not that far away from yet another Volt battery caution. In fact, it could be our final competition yellow, should this race continue to have a green flag look to it. And you mentioned Brandon Pierce in the 2 car just further up the road of your race leader right now. That is, in fact, as Blake mentioned, a team car to that of your leader. But knowing that the yellow is not far down the line, I would imagine that Pierce wants to do everything he can to stay on the lead lap and close out this season as I would say, one of the tenured veterans of this series. He's been in the Cars Tour for several years. This is his 6th Cars Tour season, and he came into it very confident, but he too had been plagued by a lot of bad luck. He is hoping he can end the season on a bit of a high here as he continues to hold down a lead lap position for the moment.
This is a battle that's been going on for a number of laps, kind of back and forth. It was Fryer, it was Quapple, and now it is Fryer again who makes his way by. And I think a lot of patience being shown right there for Quapple, who saw Fryer, ducked down to the inside, and just gave him the spot right there, ducked down in line. Not too much going on behind him, but for Quapple, it's good enough for now. Riding in the 8th position, he would win the championship should things stand here the next 44 laps.
We saw Jared Fryer, also Brendan Butterbean Queen, a couple of these cars, and we've seen this all season long. When they get to the middle of the corner and get back to the gas, some of these cars let out a little bit of a puff of smoke. No cause for concern, just the way in which they've got some of these vehicles dialed in. And it is still Butterbean. In fact, Mason Diaz's car is continuing to burp just a little bit every time he gets back to the gas, as he has fallen another lap down in what has been quite the struggling afternoon after sustaining that hood damage early in the race.
And a couple of times we've seen Miracle really slow down the front straightaway. He once again did it, and car does not sound like it is up to full song, and indeed he's going to be off the pace. If he can get his car down to the apron, I think everything will be okay. And indeed he's able to do that. Does Zach Miracle. Gets down to the apron at 3 and 4 beneath that curbing that protects the apron from the racetrack, but will allow things to continue here in an orderly fashion at Caraway Speedway. Ready to wrap up this 2023 season, this championship battle down to the wire between Brendan Butterbean Queen and Carson Quapple. As mentioned, just lost a spot to Jared Fryer, currently runs in the 8th position. And Butterbean, I have to wonder, if you're in his position right now, you're doing everything possible to take home this championship. Are you wanting to know where Carson's running, or are you just worried about the task you have at hand?
That's a really good question, and honestly, I'm not sure what the correct answer is. I think it has to do with the driver's personality, and not to sound like this is the obvious answer, but preference. What motivates your driver? What makes them tick? What makes them perform at max capacity? And if Butterbean is someone who needs to be motivated by the competition around him, especially considering the championship point standings, then I would say you relay that information. But if he wants to be in his own world, knowing his own lap times, and not caring at all what anybody else is doing, it may very well be quiet on the radio, that Leaf Podium Performance 03. And in terms of execution, they have done everything right over the last few years, and I think you would have to pick apart the year. Should things stay as they are and they win this race and finish second in points, you'd have to break out a pretty fine-tooth comb to find where some of the areas of improvement could have been to maybe change the outcome should Quapple remain your points leader and champion as things run right now.
And I think when you look at how this season has ended, a little bit of contact there off of 2, Ronnie Bassett Jr. and Chad McCumbee, as we just battling for that competition caution is going to be displayed now. You can see Brandon Willard, as he does, or has done in every single Cars Tour race this year, waving that yellow flag proudly with 36 laps to go in the season. We'll be right back here for the 21st annual North-South Shootout at Caraway Speedway, live on Flow Racing.
This focus, this silence, this roar. the Travelers Championship. Now is the time. This is the place. Visit travelerschampionship.com.
Back with you live here from Caraway Speedway, where we are just about set to wrap things up here in 2023. It is a race that has been dominated thus far by Brendan Butterbean Queen. But first, let's check in down in the pits with James Pike.
Yeah, I was tuned into Carson Quapple's radio all throughout that last stint, Blake, and the key word that the crew said to him over and over again, discipline. Discipline on the right rear. Discipline when racing other cars. Discipline in keeping the big picture in mind. Those were the sorts of things that the crew fed to Carson throughout that 40-lap stint. You can tell immediately what the mindset is. They don't mind giving up a few spots here and there if it means they secure a second straight Cars Tour Late Model Stock Car Championship. Expect that to continue over the last stint of this race.
And with what we've seen on these late race restarts, Eric, I think that is a great reminder there for that young driver. Discipline, discipline, discipline. We know things can get crazy, but reminding your driver of that with all that's on the line, hats off to that junior motorsports team.
Yeah, and just be aware of what you can control. You know, if something happens like what, where Mini Tyrell broke an axle on a restart, if that happens in front of you, there's not much you can do to control that. Yeah. But you can control how hard in which you are driving your very own race car and the positions you are putting yourself in order to mitigate risk in a position like Carson is here today, trying to wrap up that title. While Brendan Butterbean and his Lead Pulling Performance team stand and watch as they try to continue to do all they can to remain in the fight 36 laps from the finish.
A lot of those shirts down in the pit area with his team, and every single racetrack we have gone to, Eric, that has been a theme, especially when we get up towards Virginia, but really it has been everywhere that Butterbean, boy, does he have a great following, and fans really flock to him and his personality.
Yeah, and that's the thing, personality. I mean, just very likable figure. Our partners at Flow Racing have done a tremendous job kind of watching his year unfold and progress. And it also puts you in a front seat as we come to the choose this time by to see how he unfolds and matures as a person. This is a success on the asphalt side. It's relatively new to him. He's always been so good in dirt cars for several years. Started running some pavement races and doing very, very well not that long ago. And with that, he has learned a lot about himself, his ability, his racecraft, his race team. And I think that infectious personality is what is causing a lot of people to gravitate towards him and the potential success that not only remains in this season, but also in the many years to come in his career.
Well, I think when you talk about some of what he has done this year, if you have not gone back and watched an interview that he had between he and Kenny Wallace when he came out to South Boston, I'm just telling you right now, it may be worth opening up a second tab right now, going on YouTube and looking that up when this race is over. So make sure to write that down if you can. Give yourself a little bit of a reminder. 36 laps left, may not be a long time as we have just that many laps left here in the 2023 season. You can see the results of the choose, much like what we had last time. Queen, McCarty, your front row, Huffman, and Dylan Ward, your second row. But don't count out Caden Honeycutt, third car on the outside lane. He has been rolling behind that number 10 Arnis Race Car Toyota. Into the KRC Power Steering start zone, and we'll see how that one stands. McCarty had a little bit of a nose out in front of Queen. They're able to launch it down in the corner. Queen has the advantage. So far, so good. Queen's your leader, McCarty, Huffman, and now that is the caution is going to be thrown, and indeed I think that was the case. McCarty had a little bit of a lead getting into the KRC Power Steering restart zone, and they're going to wave off that restart as a result.
And this is a good opportunity to mention to our fans who are watching along at home, and that indeed is the call, is that the start is going to be called back. If you're looking at the front straightaway, and we'll mention this as the cars come off of turn number 4, there is a box painted on the racetrack, and this is something that we come across to every track in which we visit. That is the racetrack's restart zone for events they hold, they sanction, and oftentimes they run weekly. Well, that's not our restart zone. So as you see on the front stretch, there it is, as you just see Bobby McCarty run through the gap between the start and end of that restart point. It's a pretty large bit of working room for drivers to utilize. However, our KRC Power Steering restart zone, it's a much smaller window of opportunity to control the pace, and it is marked on the wall with signage and flags that are kind of netted into the catch fence here. And that is something which we have to point out time and time again, because you could be looking at this and say, well, why was that called back? They were within that box. That's not ours to justify, judge, and call the starts and restarts. It's the little bit of orange flags you see on the left side of your picture sticking out of the fence line. That is the KRC Power Steering restart zone that our drivers are warned and told that is what you go off of.
And that's oftentimes a little bit of a smaller space than what many of these tracks are accustomed to using. And there you can see right there is the KRC Power Steering restart banner, not necessarily lines that are painted out on the racetrack. So luckily when that caution was flown, had some stack-ups in the back of the field, but luckily everybody able to make it out okay, and we will line them up exactly as we had on our last attempt. 36 laps left in the 2023 season. This time looks like everything is good through the KRC Power Steering restart zone, and Queen will once again try to move in front of Bobby McCarty, and just not going to be able to do it, but indeed he is into turn number 3.
Bottom lane appears to be working quite well. McCarty tried to come down on Huffman. Huffman forces his way to the inside of the 6 in the battle for second. Inside in that 22 car, McCarty topside as they rub fenders in the middle of the corner.
Also, two brothers that have been racing each other extremely hard, Trevor and Dylan Ward. Trevor's able to get the better of that bout. They had a pretty contentious battle for the last 15 or 20 or so laps of that run, but Huffman up to second, able to get by McCarty as a big wiggle out of Trevor Ward getting into turn 1. Fryer also to take advantage as well, and here comes Caden Honeycutt looking to the inside of Dylan.
Honeycutt inside of Dylan Ward, just behind him Ronnie Bassett Jr. inside of Carson Quapple with more cars closing in. That's Heath Causey in a 59 underneath the 8 car. Chad McCumbee is coming up as well. And a lap ago, we saw some contact between the 21 of Laney Bice, who's entered your picture, and Andrew Grady, who hopped over the left rear tire, landed on all fours, and only lost one spot in the process.
So still side by side back here. Meanwhile, Quapple had fallen back a couple of positions, now back into 10th, would still be good enough to lock up the championship as things stand for now, but maybe fading a little bit in that number 8 car. Meanwhile, Jared Fryer on a mission to the back in the quarter panel of Trevor Ward. He's looking fast right now. He's up to 4th, and look at the drive that car has off of the corner. That's incredible, and he's bringing Caden Honeycutt right along with him.
Honeycutt will not stop his climb up the running order. He gets loose off of turn number 2. Almost got into the left rear of Trevor Ward and has to concede the battle for the top 5 spot at the moment.
Meanwhile, this is all going on just in front of your championship points leader. He's trying to fend off his own drivers. Right behind him is the 21 of Laney Bice. What an incredible run and recovery that she and that team have had in this second half of the race. And she's pulling right up to the back end of Carson Quapple. You can see a little bit of smoke we were talking about there as Quapple gets back to the throttle, but 29 laps to go. What does Quapple do here with that 21 car hounding him?
I'm not sure how important this is as far as an objective for the 8 car and team, but the one thing we've been leaning on is Causey looks low there on Dylan Ward for position. Bice now underneath Quapple. Carson Quapple has finished in the top 10 in every race so far this season. 15 for 15. He just lost the top 10 spot to Laney Bice that lap, but he doesn't need it to clinch the title.
Again, it would be 5 more spots that he would need to relinquish before he really gets into territory of could he bring this thing home. So for now, albeit the car is fading, looking at the lap times, it is definitely a car that is falling off late in the going, but for now, doing enough to hang on. As you can see, Brandon Pierce makes his way by the 16 of Chad McCumbee. These would be the cars that, if they are going to chase down Quapple and kind of change things up for the championship, they're going to have to find some speed.
Next time by, it'll be 25 to go. Thus, no more competition yellows on the horizon. It would have to be organic if this field is going to be slowed once more. As you see Pierce, who was able to stay on the lead lap, now trying to claw his way further back up through the field. And how about Coy Beard? Was involved in the spin in 3 and 4 on lap 8 of this race. Got center punched in the door by Heath Causey. Both he and Causey have been able to work themselves up in the top 12 positions. That's Beard holding on to the spot, sliding off the corner in front of Pierce.
Boy, have we seen a lot of cars that have really kind of moved back and forth over the course of this run. Fastest cars on the racetrack right now include that of Jared Fryer, include that of Laney Bice, who's made her way up into the 9th position. Heath Causey, one of the fastest cars on the racetrack as well. A lot of comers and goers here, and some cars that, especially late in this run, now that we've crossed over the 100-lap marker, are really separating themselves.
And that trend is still continuing here as Quapple has now closed back up on the battle for what is the final spot in the top 10. Heath Causey in the 59, despite the damage, a little bit further ahead. Here's Ronnie Bassett Jr. trying to get up into the top 5. A handful of podiums for Bassett in 2023 so far, looking for what could be his 5th top 5 finish. If he can make this pass and hold the spot, he's inside of Trevor Ward as they come to 3.
Plenty of room and respect given between these two drivers. You could see Ward either let him by or try to cross over that he was not able to pull off. So Ronnie Bassett Jr., as we've seen many times out of that 0-4 car, how many times late in a run this season have we seen that 0-4 really starts to shine? He's doing it once again as he's cracked his way up into the top 5. Meanwhile, back up front, we know we had a battle there for a couple of laps between Queen and McCarty. That gap is continuing to grow up to 1.7 seconds right now that Queen is ahead of the pack.
In fact, Queen is now on the same straightaway as the cars that are on the tail end of the lead lap. So with 20 to go, now 19 to go. Brendan Queen, who is hoping to be en route to what could be his 4th win of the season. And he is hoping that this race will stay green and that the traffic will cooperate because he is much faster than some of the cars he is about to be around in about 3 to 5 laps from now.
Cars up the way that are significantly off the pace. He'll approach them in another lap or two, and he'll have a long list of lappers to deal with after that. McCarty hanging on to second is kind of stabilized with the lap times that he and Landon Huffman have been running for 2nd and 3rd. Jared Fryer continuing to run one of the faster paces that we've seen so far this afternoon at this juncture of the race, but just not enough time, I wouldn't think, without something happening to allow him to come back up and try to contend for this win. As you can see, Queen going by Millington. And unfortunately for Trevor Ward, the last couple of laps, he has lost a handful of positions, maybe experiencing a mechanical issue on that 77 car. He was just up in the top 5. He's back to 8th in about a lap or so.
Either that or perhaps they've fallen over the razor's edge in terms of comfort level and setup of that car on this long run to the finish. We'll see if that 77 of Ward could regain its pace and stay in the top 10 as things stand. Heath Causey, the car that is just one spot behind, with Ward now falling to 9th. Boy, Blake, there are a lot of ill-handling race cars out there right now. I'm not sure what Butterbean can see out the windshield in terms of the way in which some of these cars are sliding all around this 0.4 of a mile racetrack, but he is about to be right in the middle of it.
I think we're showing why the stands here are packed in turn 1 here at Caraway, because they're able to see these cars really get out of shape and slide all the way through the corner. We've seen a number of cars kind of brush up against the wall off at turn 2, a great vantage point for that as well. You can see not a whole lot of wiggling right now for that 0-3 of Butterbean as he pulls up to some of the lap traffic, and you can see Dylan Wilson, Mason Diaz. You're going to have to smartly navigate this as they go side by side directly in front of your race leader.
Diaz, unfortunately, several laps down after having to pit for damage sustained on the stack up. Dylan Wilson, who had a strong rookie campaign in the late model stocks with the Cars Tour this season. Some whispers about the team's plans. That Two-Borough Performance team may be thinking about fielding a second entry for 2024. We hope to see Dylan back as well. One of the most entertaining facets of this season in terms of media content that is out there. The podcast that is ironically hosted with Dylan Wilson and Brandon Pierce, who's working on Carson Quapple up off the corner, trying to kick Quapple another spot further outside of the top 10.
Oh, he's slow. And, I thought for a second there he was going to be a little bit off the pace. But I think, again, he just recognizes the situation. He could give up a couple more spots. He's now in 13th, hanging on to that race car. But it would be another 4 positions he would need to lose to not bring home the title.
As things stand unofficially, it's about a 3-point deficit between that of Butterbean, the race leader, who's coming up on 8 to go, and Carson Quapple, who has fallen to 13th. The good news for that of Carson is as our leader, Butterbean, works on the backside of Jacob Hefner. Hefner is the 16th car on the lead lap. Should Hefner go a lap down and we see a caution, that'll be a bit of a buffer or a blanket of protection for that of Quapple, as Hefner does indeed fall a lap off the leaders. And Butterbean continues to be on a roll.
As you said, so many cars just all over the place, and he's got another couple in front of him, and Cameron Bolin, Andrew Grady. See the team looking on, and all things considered, they should continue to play out as they do right now. Butterbean, can't fault the driver for all that he has done, for all that team has done, especially in this latter part of the season. Had a perfect race that put him in contention for this title when we were last at Tri-County. Has been in contention pretty much every single race we've had, especially this second half of the season. And you just have to wonder what could have been that race at Tri-County. They end up running out of fuel in the old North State Nationals. What could have been without that we may be looking at Butterbean as your champion with 5 to go.
Oh, man, there are cars all over the racetrack right now. I think Butterbean and Carson Quapple are both just hoping that this race comes to its conclusion without a late restart in yellow.
I think you're right, and they've spread out, and probably the biggest gap, we talk about how close these teams have been all season long, and right now the difference, the gap in lap time is about as wide as we have seen it all season long at this just over a 0.4 of a mile racetrack. But they'll come around this time. 2 laps to go in the 2023 season. Coy Beard, some lap traffic just up the road from Butterbean, but is a couple laps away from a victory here in the North-South Shootout.
And I'll tell you, Brendan Butterbean Queen and this Lead Pulling Performance team have done everything right, and he is 1 lap away from ending the season on the highest of highs. Here he comes off of turn number 4, white flag in the air.
Nobody for a straightaway in front of him. 1 lap left in the season here at Caraway. Brendan Butterbean Queen has done everything he needed to do today. He won the pole. He has led every single lap of this race, and into 3 and 4 for the final time. Brendan Butterbean Queen is going to win the 21st annual North-South Shootout for the Cars Tour. He's a queen, but there's only one king of the Cars Tour, as Carson Quapple will come around and win his 2nd consecutive Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour Championship.
Quapple does so by finishing in the 11th position. He got around both Dylan and Trevor Ward late in the going after those cars faded at the end. But for Brendan Butterbean Queen and the way in which he has closed out his 2023 season, despite the fact they will come up shy in terms of their title hopes, I think it is safe to say this is going to be a very powerful and potent combination come some of the post-Cars Tour season races that are still ahead, plus 2024.
No doubt about it, as you see the patented American flag celebration. Not going to be a checkered one that he carries, but, talking to Butterbean yesterday, one thing that he said that I think exemplifies why he is such a fan favorite, and talking about this team and them breaking a rear axle yesterday and then going out winning the pole position when there was a question if that car would even go out and qualify. He said that I'm the lucky one. These guys, my team, they are special, and I'm just the lucky one that is fortunate enough to be behind the wheel of the race car. And I think, again, that's the attitude that so many people love about Butterbean. Of course, his personality, you can't miss him. And I can't wait to see him climb out in Edelbrock Victory Lane. I know, yes, this isn't the championship and the wrap-up that he would have wanted, but he went out. He did everything possible today, has nothing to hang his head about. And what a great group that took the challenge to Carson Quapple in this junior motorsports outfit.
And that humble nature seems to be a bit of a trend right now in the Cars Tour as far as, seeing drivers go to victory lane. We saw Deke McCaskill when he won and dominated at South Boston Speedway. So this is the biggest win of my career because of who I'm going up against. And we've seen the same type of attitude out of Brendan Butterbean Queen en route to this victory. And I am certain that Carson Quapple, being that we said last year he did not start all the races en route to that championship, they were so dominant. This year they had a team that kept him on his heels all year long. Ironically, both of them are going to be on the front stretch celebrating, but it is Butterbean who arrives in victory lane for the 4th time in 2023. James Pike is standing down in victory lane. Brendan Butterbean Queen getting set to celebrate.
Butterbean ends the 2023 Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour late model stock car season on a tear. 3 wins in the last 5 races to wrap it up. And even though he doesn't come away with the title, he will still love this opportunity to enter victory lane at Caraway Speedway for the first time in his career. Lots of the team going in to celebrate and have the opportunity to throw on the victory lane hat and Who's Your Neckband before he will come out and celebrate. I don't know if we've got any chocolate milk around here, but I feel like at this point we all know that that's a certain beverage of choice for Butterbean, and might be something they add to victory lanes in 2024 when he looks to go 1 spot better with Lee Pulliam Performance. Still a fabulous debut year in the 03 for Butterbean, the Chesapeake, Virginia native, former track champion at Langley Speedway, and runner-up in the Cars Tour for 2023. Winner this afternoon, though, at Caraway Speedway in the North-South Shootout. Taking a little bit of extra time there to get the helmet off, soak it in, but he will celebrate, he will party, and he will absolutely love the opportunity to celebrate in Edelbrock Victory Lane. A few folks coming in, and few of the friends of Lee Pulliam Performance coming in to share their congratulations. And there's the chocolate milk right on cue. So they had the chocolate milk delivery planned all along. Just had some messengers there to help out with it. Now, Hans' device will come off. Belts will come undone. Little fist pound there. Words between he and some of the crew before Butterbean pops out for the 4th time in 2023 as a Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour winner. Butterbean, you said before we got going today, you had barely even seen this place. So how on earth did you figure out this place so quickly, and where did you find the speed?
Lee Pulliam Performance, baby. Woo! I know he dominated here back in the day, and just what a year it's been for me last year to this year. Going from my family stuff to sign with Lee. We knew we could do it. We started off with a bang at the 400. We're going to go defend that in 2 weeks. But we're going to celebrate this tonight. I know everybody's going to say, well, you came up short on the points, and we win as a team, lose as a team. We ended on a good note. We're going to come out stronger next year. A lot of these tracks I'd never seen till this year. So super proud of this whole team, led by Doug Powers, Ben, Maddie, Colin with us today, Eddie, everybody, Christian, everybody, Dave, everybody in the Lee Pulliam organization, Leroy, my man right there. Not Lee, but Leroy. You got to thank Jimmy, Marshall, just everybody that's on this big family of a team. It's just so important that we go to battle together. And when you have that kind of bond, Doug Powers and I accomplished a lot this year. I'm going to miss him next year. He's going to do some family stuff. But I'm going to have these memories for a lifetime with that guy. He's a friend for life. Got to thank bestrepair.net, Best Repair Company, the whole state and family. I got to thank Mincy's Graphics, Bad Fast Graphics. Got to thank LeithCars.com, Jimmy Atkins, and everything he does for me. I got to thank Old School Video Games, John West, David West Racing Engines, Hedgecock Race Cars. I got to thank Jay Hedgecock and his son for letting us use their rear end today. Hopefully I took it easy on it for them, but appreciate them letting us do it. Got to thank the whole Cars Tour for giving us a great series, Solid Rock. I'm going to miss them next year. Appreciate everything they've done for the sport. Jack and Keeley, everybody involved in this whole Cars Tour. It's been an honor to be in this series. I got to thank the Lord. He blessed us. Congratulations to the 8 team. it's been a hard-fought battle all year. They led it all year, and we were playing catch-up, but, they're hard to beat, so we enjoy every one of these wins. But just huge thanks to Lee for letting me drive his race cars.
Let's talk about that rear end a little bit because it was a calamitous start yesterday. You had to get that thing changed out before qualifying, and there were a lot of teams up and down pit road that offered to help you get that changed, and one of them was Carson Quample's number 18. And in the context of a championship battle as tight as this, for them to be willing to go do that, what does that say to you about the sportsmanship in the Solid Rock Carriers car store?
I just, appreciate them, and, Dale and that whole organization. Has been fun to race against them, and I feel like if it was the other way around, we would do it for them just like they would for us because, I think he wants to win the championship beating me instead of me going home. So I know I would. I'd rather know I beat that guy instead of, getting a gimme or something. So it was super cool to see them. Minnie Tyrell, them offered us a rear end. Chad McCumbee and them did. And then Jay Hedgecock obviously showed up, and that was the one that would fit in. So just super cool to see everybody come in and try to help us.
Keep an eye on the Asheville Waffle Houses. In a few hours, you will likely see Butterbean there is the 2023 winner of the North-South Shootout.
Y'all know we're going to the Waffle House, right?
Had to get that in, right? Had to point him over and say, you know what? We gotta make sure that we mention that.
And how about the chocolate milks also? I got to say, that would not be my number one beverage of choice, but didn't we see Justin Allgaier celebrate with Josh Williams and a yoo-hoo after he won his way into the championship finale? I got to say, times are a-changing, but winning still feels just as good, no matter what you're washing it down with. And Brendan Butterbean Queen yet another victory on the season. And you heard him mention they've got more on the docket in 2023 to look forward to in terms of trying to find some continued success in late model stock car racing with this Lee Pulliam Performance team.
And it has been, this is kind of a full year coming full circle, right? It was South Carolina 400 last year that this relationship started. And, the biggest thing that Butterbean told me about this season, that he has gained the confidence that he can go out at any level and get the job done. Because there's no more competition, what he said, than what is in the Cars Tour right now. And to be able to work with a great race team like Lee Pulliam Performance and to go out, run consistent, and continue to progress. There's no doubt about it that this team is trending upward as we kind of close the book on this 2023 season and head into 2024. If this pairing is still a thing, and by the way, they announced earlier this week that this duo will be back in 2024, the rest of this garage better watch out because they are on fire, and I think that is something that they will continue to carry into next season.
See, congratulations coming in for the runner-up, and Bobby McCarty, who stopped by in Victory Lane to offer up his congratulations on the final win of the season. And if you look at how the year unfolded for both Brendan Butterbean Queen, the race winner, and Carson Qualpole, the champion, Carson had that stretch where he won 3 races in a row to start off the season at both Florence, Hickory, also going out to Ace Speedway, and then kind of hit this little bit of a lull after Brendan Butterbean Queen won at North Wilkesboro, and that was pretty much what catapulted him up into championship contention. And then Carson got hot again, picked up a couple more wins, and then Brendan has just been on this roll since New River All-American, picking up the victory there, and now ends the season with back-to-back victories, coming up single-digit points shy by the unofficial math of being able to lay claim to the title.
As far as your favorite driver and where they finished in this 21st annual North-South Shootout, second time that the Cars Tour has been privileged enough to be here for this spectacular event. They finished like this. Brendan Queen, of course, was your winner. Bobby McCarty, who just stopped by in Victory Lane a second ago, finished in second. Layden Huffman finished in third. Jared Fryer was fourth. Ronnie Bassett Jr. rounded out your top 5. Caden Honeycutt, your winner in the Pro Late Models, finished in sixth in this one. Lainey Bice, what a recovery for that number 21 car, and a great run for her and that team. She finishes in 7th. Brandon Pierce, great recovery late in that race as well, finishes in 8th. Chad McCumbee 9th, and Heath Causey, wrapped up in an early incident, he finishes in the 10th position.
Carson Qualpole, who will be celebrating a championship just a few moments from now, came to the checkered flag, unfortunately broke the top 10 streak only by 1 spot, came home in 11th. Trevor Ward faded late, finished 12th. Connor Hall, the 2023 Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series champion, 13th. Dylan Ward, 14th. And Coy Beard rebounded, local driver, after the early incident, less than 10 laps into this race to round out your top 15.
16th was Jacob Hefner. Dylan Wilson finished in 17th. Ryan Millington fought some issues all day long in his race car. He finishes in the 18th spot. Chase Burrow was 19th, and Cameron Boland, your NPM Marketing Rookie of the Year contender, finishes in 20th. Logan Clark was 21st. Mason Diaz 22nd. Andrew Grady was 23rd. Zach Miracle talked about how strong he was and how that car was able to keep up despite the damage. Unfortunately, finishes in 24th tonight. And Minnie Tyrell, a victim of breaking a rear axle on that restart, finishes in 25th. So we have had some great fields, and it is once again the case here at Caraway that we run all the way down. And you know, that was probably one of my favorite things about each of these races, Eric, and talking to teams, talking to fans who are out here at the racetrack, that there is really no telling each and every week we show up who could win these races. There are 10 names, 15 names sometimes that you could throw out as to who realistically could end up in victory lane.
The sport has proven it is in a good place. The series has proven to be in a good place. There is so much that is happening behind the scenes to help make this tour even stronger and better as the year goes on. And as Blake mentioned, it is all about the competition, the drivers, the team members, as well as the families who sacrifice weekends and days like this, where it is absolutely beautiful in Sophia, North Carolina, to come out to the racetrack and try to see if their driver, their person, could go out and celebrate like Brendan Butterbean Queen is doing at Edelbrock Victory Lane. And I'll extend those sentiments a little bit to our entire production crew and team that has been phenomenal to work with all year long. We mentioned Jacqueline Drake is not with us this week, and she has done a great job all year long. James Pike has been crushing it down trackside. And Blake, I have to say, when we got tasked to be together and pair together for this venture and opportunity, we didn't know each other really all that well up until we started doing this work. And I've come out of here and this experience with more than just a partner in announcing these races, but a brother. And it's been a blast with you. And I know we still got more to go here to hear from Carson Quapple, our champion. But I wanted to say, before we shift gears and celebrate him and his efforts in that junior motorsports team, I think everybody from top to bottom, from the Cars Tour side, our partners, and all drivers and teams have a lot to celebrate in what was a very successful 2023.
And I think it just brings up the question, what can be followed up? We know 2024, schedule release will be out soon, and the venues that we'll be going to next season and all that late model stock racing has seen so far this season, the momentum that has been behind it. And I think at the end of the day, Eric, we can talk about all these different drivers, these different storylines, and they certainly play into how this series has unfolded. But at the end of the day, the quality of the racing product that we have seen this year has been tremendous. I mean, when you think about just kind of a year in review, think about all the spectacular finishes that we saw. 2, 3 wide. You think about Dominion, Florence Motor Speedway. The first time we went out there was one heck of a race. We have seen time and time again. Tri-County Old North State Nationals was incredible. We've just seen so many incredible races, and again, I think we are set to continue that in 2024. But for more, down to the pits, we'll toss it down to James Pike.
I've got the father of both champions of the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour here, Travis Quapple, a NASCAR champion in his own right, and as a dad, to see both of your sons win series championships here, what does that mean to you?
Just really super proud of the boys. I know they've worked really hard over the past 10 years to get to this point. As a family, we've raced out of our family team up until recently here, since Carson went to juniors and Caden went to Highland. So we've put a lot of miles, a lot of money, a lot of effort into getting them to where they're at. So just super proud. A lot of hard work and a lot of late nights in the shop and a lot of dedication.
Travis Quapple, father of both of our champions in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour for 2023.
No doubt a very proud father being able to see both of his sons end up as champions today. And I guess if you're Caden Quapple, it's not just one championship you take home in the Pro Late Model Tour. You also have the KeenCorvetteParts.net Challenge, who by virtue of his second place finish, he's also going to be the champion of that, and will be able to, it's going to be a pretty compact vehicle. I think going back to the Quapple household tonight, you got a couple of championship trophies, but if you're Caden Quapple, at least you have one thing your brother won't, and that's an additional $5,000.
I hope they brought a U-Haul to bring all that hardware back. Let's not wait any longer. Our 2023 late model stock champion is set to celebrate in victory lane. Let's go down to James Pike.
Carson Quapple, now a two-time champion of the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour, back back-to-back late model stock car titles in 2023. And Carson, this one was not easy today. Your car was not handling the way you would have liked it. So how did you manage over the course of 125 laps to make sure you finished in the top 16?
Yeah, it was just one of those deals where I really put us in a hole there in qualifying yesterday, and trying to dig out of it in a series like this is pretty much impossible. So I knew we would have had to have a really good car to go up there and contend for the win with 03. He's been really strong all weekend, but just tried to take care of it from the beginning and kind of get some spots right without killing the tire. And congratulations. Thank you. Good job. Good run. Without killing the tire, and we were able to pick some guys off, get lucky on some starts, and either way, we still had a pretty good car, but we definitely had to work for it.
When we consider the names that have been behind the wheel of this car and the drivers that have piloted it and been successful in this series, Josh Berry stands out at the top of the list, and he's done a lot of stuff, and you still got a way to go to catch him, but there's one category that you now have him topped in, titles. He has one, you now have two. What's it mean to be a back-to-back and two-time champion of the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour late model stock cars?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I think when we won the championship last year with these junior guys, it was a really big deal because these late model stocks are so competitive, and the whole field's within a few tenths of each other. And to win that was really awesome, and that was a big deal. But to come back with, in my opinion, more competition than there was the last year with Bobby and the 03 car especially, it feels even better.
And to win it alongside your brother and to share both series championships in the same year, from your perspective, what sort of value does that carry?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I guess I really hadn't thought about it much. I knew he had his championship locked up, but I was so worried about what I needed to do in this one that I really never got to think about it. But I think it's pretty sweet for both championships to go to the same household. But at the end of the day, I just can't thank my guys enough. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have guys every weekend putting 100% effort in. And, I can't thank Brian enough for giving me a really good car week in and week out. And, it prevailed for sure. And can't thank all the guys at Junior Motorsports, LW, Dale Kelly, Johnny Morris, Bass Pro Shops, and anybody else that got me here. I just can't thank them.
Caden may have had the last lap, though. Caden ends up winning the Keen Parts Challenge. A little bit extra money going his way, but there's no denying Carson Quapple, now one of the all-time greats in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour, your two-time, back-to-back 2023 Solid Rock Carrier Cars Tour late model stock cars champion.
Thanks, Pike, and a great opportunity for them to celebrate. And we've seen this before. Jack McNelly standing there with the championship trophy, with that of Carson Quapple, celebrating yet another phenomenal season. And I think Blake, being with everything that we talked about, and in retrospect, thinking about how the tour has gotten to this point, the last race of the season, with a new ownership group in place, a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, still more to come in 2024. There'll be announcements of plenty between now and when the season kicks off in a similar fashion in which it has over the last few years in around February or March or so. And it's been quite the ride, even though that the end result ends up being the same as it was a year ago. Carson and team definitely had to take a bit of a different path to get the job done this season, and they earned each and every ounce of the success that they are celebrating down there with all that championship hardware.
No doubt about it. And I think you said it he said it in his own words about the up level of competition that came with this series. And, that's something that I don't see slowing down next year. There's a lot of talk, and, again, we'll be able to see everything play out with silly season. Again, talking with you guys in the midst of the broadcast, that if you think NASCAR silly season is crazy, just wait until late model silly season. There's a lot going on behind the scenes in preparation for all that is going on in the late model stock world, and I just can't wait. I know it feels like we just started this, and yet here we are. We're probably 4 months away, give or take or so, from when we open up the season in 2024. And I'm just excited now as I was to get this year started.
It's been a blast. Thank you all so much for joining us and for being on this ride. Thank you to our partners at Flow Racing for all that they've done this season with us. And there'll be more content to come to wrap up the Cars Tour season. Thank you to our production team who has been with us, whether here today at Caraway or here with us at any point throughout the 2023 season. You all are the real reason why we're able to bring the sights and sounds and images to all all those who are watching across the country and world. And as we mentioned, Blake, thank you to James Pike, Jacqueline Drake, anyone who's held a microphone with us. And thank you, brother. It's been an absolute blast. Hopefully they bring us back next year. We'll see. That's another bit of unknown we don't know about. But in all seriousness, this has been a blast. And like I said, your family, man, I love working with you. And I think we get to do it 1 or 2 more times for the year's out. So I'm looking forward to that.
Feeling is mutual. Again, we'll be back on Flow Race. At least Eric and I will in 2 weeks for the South Carolina 400. But until then, and until next season, for James Pike, for Eric Brennan, and for our entire Flow Racing team and all that they have done for us this season, I'm Blake McCandless saying so long for the final time here in 2023. We bid you farewell and congratulations to your Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour champions in Caden and Carson Quapple.